Hello and welcome back to the AHP in QI podcast. I'm Jo Kitchen, the network facilitator, and today I'm delighted to have with me Becky Fell. So Becky Fell, her job title is an Associate Healthcare Support Worker Development Educator, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I will let her tell you a little bit more about what that actually involves in a minute. So Becky has a background in admin, but over 10 years experience of the NHS. She had a small gap with the NHS due to relocation, and then when she relocated, she started her current job role. But before Becky tells you about her job, what I wanted to do is tell you why we're having this conversation with Becky, because Becky isn't an allied health professional, but I really feel there's a lot we can learn from her. A little while ago, the Health Foundation published a document on habits of an improver. And to me, Becky just completely embodies these and brings them to life. She has a fantastic creativity to her problem solving. She is influencing those around her, but working with empathy and care at the same time. She has a really interesting questioning approach to the project she's carried out and is able to reflect on herself and the impact that these are having. But most of all, she's optimistic about change and optimistic about the future. And we know that QI is for everyone at all different levels in all different job roles, but we don't always see it. So I'm absolutely delighted to be talking to Becky today to tell us a bit more about the project she's been in and how she works. So first off then, Becky, would you be able to tell us a little bit about your job role at the moment?
So, as you said, I am the Associate Healthcare Support Worker Development Educator for the Trust, and I've been in post since 2021. It's been a real roller coaster because there wasn't actually a position of this name in place before. So I've actually been fortunate to have free scope from my managers to actually build and craft this role and make it what it is today. So I'm really lucky to have had that freedom. So if I start by saying that I joined this trust in 2019 as a HCA, and I really realised that I had a passion for supporting our new starters. I really think it's important that when you have people that start, the more knowledge, competence and time that you spend with them to help build their confidence will actually enable them to thrive and flourish in their role a lot more quickly and also want to stay working within the trust that they're in. So because of this, and I felt that this Associate Development Educator role was a perfect fit for me. So I applied and fortunately got the job. So one of my things that I was really passionate about was starting a Healthcare Support Worker Guide to Excellence induction. It's a bespoke induction for healthcare support workers. I really felt that this was needed because I'd actually experienced the trust induction myself, and you had all of the normal mandatory training, but there wasn't really anything in there that actually told a HCA or a healthcare support worker about their role or what were to expect when they got to their area. So I now have a 2-day programme in place, and on the first day we cover blood glucose training and they get their barcode, so they're good to go as soon as they get to the ward. And also we have bespoke EPR training as well, so that they can get to use the computer system that they're going to be using in clinical practice daily. A lot of people have anxieties around using new computer systems, so this really does reduce this before they start. The second day is a full day with myself, and I'm literally talking about and helping them understand exactly what to do within their role, talking about deconditioning. We're showing how to use commonly used equipment so they understand what it looks like. But I think what's really important for me is that they fully understand that this is a taster session of what is to come, so that they're not expected to remember absolutely everything they're told. And I always cement in to go at their own pace. It doesn't matter if you've got people that are working faster and harder than you. Go at your own pace and do what you can do in the time you can do it, because it's better to be slow and correct for our patients than rush and miss things or make mistakes. So I've been carrying this induction out since April 2022. It was a lot of work getting it up and running, but it was been so rewarding and something that I was very passionate about completing. I yearly look at my statistics, and I can tell you last year that I trained 211 staff, and out of that 211, only 23 have left the trust. And mainly that is due to moving into further education with a view to returning to the NHS. and some have also relocated. I would say a couple left due to the hospital environment not being right for them, but you would expect that with anybody that comes into a new career. You're always going to find it not only just in a hospital environment, not everything is for everybody.
That sounds like it's made a real difference to people's experiences of induction. Because am I right in thinking that some people starting in their job as a health support worker wouldn't have worked in healthcare before?
That's correct, yes. And even though everybody needs assistance, whether they've got experience or not, because what I find is a lot of people that come into the trust have got previous experience, but not in an acute setting. If you're in a care home, you are going to pick up a lot of things that are useful for working in this environment, but there's also an awful lot more clinical things that they will carry out here. So for me, when I was putting this induction in place, not only was it important for our new starters with no experience, it was also vitally important for everybody to come that had a little bit of experience as well. But it really does hit home about exactly what to expect when they get there. It reduces anxiety, and if anybody actually is really worried, I always offer to meet them on their first day and actually go to the ward with them if I possibly can.
Oh, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And I think your role has quite a pastoral element in it. Like you mentioned about if people are worried, being able to go and meet them on their first day. Are there any other aspects to that sort of pastoral care that you offer?
So if I'm at interview skills days, I always let everybody know there and then what my role is and how I can support and help them. And I will give out my email address as well so that I can actually support them through the application process. Take them for a hospital tour if they want one before they start, but also give them reassurance before the interview as well. And I've done that quite a few times, and then we've had successful applicants. When we get to training, before they actually arrive, I always send out a welcome email once they've got their start date to let them know again about myself, my role, and how I can help and support them, and let them know that I'm here right throughout their journey at Gloucester hospitals.
That sounds brilliant. From my own experience, starting a number of new jobs and just turning up and getting lost on my first day because I can't find where I'm going, and it being really quite a stressful experience. And it does lead into how you feel about your whole role. So having that support from pre-interview, that is incredible.
So also I can say that I also offer bespoke training as well. So after induction, if staff go to the ward or the clinical area or wherever it is that they're working, and for example, they're taking observations or they're giving personal care or they're really struggling with the computer system, I offer to actually go and bespoke train them on those particular areas to help build their confidence and competence. And I'll go as many times as they need because I think it's really important. I try and visit as many people as I can throughout their first few weeks to make sure that they're okay, and everybody can constantly get hold of me via emails. I'll always answer anybody that gets in touch with me unless I'm teaching, and I'll do it at the end of the day. I always try and get back to somebody on the same day that they contact me, because we often find that the things that need sorting out are actually quite small and quite easily fixed. And I would hate to think of somebody being at home worrying when actually a 2-minute conversation with myself can help them.
That's so true. And for those people having already met you and know you, you're then a safe person for them to get in contact and someone they can trust to be able to help them and sort out their problems. Oh, that sounds great. So one of the projects you carried out, it was called the Silver Project. That sounds intriguing. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
So yes, it was a silver quality improvement project, and this was based around care certificate compliance. So initially I had to complete my bronze training first, and then once you've actually identified a project, you get booked onto your silver training. So I learned all about quality improvement methodology and how to embark on actually running a project successfully. I don't think currently a lot of healthcare support workers actually do quality improvement projects, and this is something that I'm really trying to raise the profile of and try and encourage, because a lot of our healthcare support workers have really first-hand knowledge of what can help our patients and improve their experience. So initially you obtain baseline data, and then you plan your project using the various QI tools available and identify stakeholders that will actually help you. And then I planned out 4 different PDSA cycles. So that's plan, do, see and act. And then after that, you then review these, as I say, and move on to each one should you need to. So basically, we wanted to raise the care certificate compliance within the trust. And I know nationally, when we undertook this project, it wasn't just our trust that had an issue, a lot of trusts did as well. So the first PDSA cycle, we implemented care certificate supervisors, and we wanted to actually train people. We ran a 2-hour training course explaining about the care certificate and the standards, how to get sign off, etc. And we made a poster with their name on it, and they would stick it up in their clinical area, and then staff could actually approach them for support with completing their workbook. We found that this didn't really make a massive difference to our compliance rate. So we then moved on to the next cycle, which was care certificate drop-in sessions. And again, we literally just set up in the training centres across our sites, and if anybody wanted to drop in to speak to us about how to complete their book or give them a hand to complete it, we were there to do so. But again, this didn't have much of a difference. The next thing we looked at was People's Alchemy software for care certificate, which quite a few trusts are now using. It's an amazing way to actually track everybody's progress that's in the process of actually completing their care certificate. Unfortunately, the cost was too high, so we couldn't go forward with that. We then came to a bit of a stumbling block, but actually found that the issue was actually on ESR, the employee service record. And what we were finding was after the 12 or 15 weeks that they have to complete their workbook and get it signed off, the compliance was actually dropping off. And that's why people weren't being chased to complete. So we actually rectified the ESR. And now, because of that, our compliance rate is really, really rising, because people can't have to do it. It has to be mandatorily done. And we've really raised the profile of this throughout the trust as well through doing this project, because it's really important that the care certificate is completed, not only because Health Education England expects the care certificate to be completed by all healthcare support workers, but also because the CQC have an expectation that there will be good compliance when they come to inspect. So I completed this project and then graduated in January of this year. We went to graduation.
That's fascinating. Thank you for your honesty there, because sometimes I think we do set out on these projects and we expect to identify the problem relatively quickly, but actually it took you a few PDSA cycles to work on different aspects of it and then identify the various problems that were contributing to it. And that's a real classic way that technology can both hinder us, and then when you knew what the problem was and sorted it out, it was actually able to help, because then I presume, does it remind people if they haven't completed the care certificate?
Yes, it does. And we have a system in here where actually line managers are informed, and then they can obviously extend the time limit if there's extenuating circumstances and work with them to help them, or point them in our direction, because we're always willing to help people complete their workbooks, which is a fantastic service, I think, to offer as well. I think it's important as well to say that not every project will have a successful conclusion, and that doesn't matter. The fact that you've actually tried to improve our patient experience within your trust or organisation is what's paramount. It's if it fails, at least you've tried, because if you don't try, you don't know. So, and I can also say that projects will probably take you a lot longer than what you actually think they will, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. A lot of projects take an awful lot longer.
That's some really helpful words of encouragement there. Thanks, Becky. So, Becky, you told me that you were the first support worker to complete the Patient Safety Associate programme. Can you tell us a bit more about what that involved and what you learnt from it?
Yeah, so it was an absolutely fantastic opportunity and an amazing experience. I met so many different people, and I could not believe how large the patient safety arena is within a trust. I obviously knew bits and pieces, but it was a real eye-opener, and the patient safety world, it's huge. So the course ran over 6 months. I graduated in March this year, and it was really fantastic because actually there was a lot of matrons and band sevens that attended this, which was great for me because I actually learned quite a lot from them as well. So the modules included introduction to patient safety, learning from incidents, managing risk, systems approach to safety, human factors and human performance, just culture and psychological safety, and being sure about safety and using data. So you get set tasks after each module that you've been to the day for. We have a day's training per module or presenting, etc., where you learn, and then you have tasks to do after. So doing that, I attended many meetings, and that was so interesting. So I attended a serious incidents panel within the organisation, and firstly, I'd say about these meetings as well is the fact that you just don't realise, especially at my level, what actually is all going on up above you. So it was such an eye-opener. And this is where any serious incidents are discussed, and they're actually decided at that place, at that point, whether they actually are a serious incident or whether they're a moderate, mild, or whether they shouldn't be there at all, and whether they get entered. What I would say is that for me, it was outstanding to watch these people unpick the information and actually pick out the golden nuggets that they knew would make it, whether a serious incident or a less minor one. I also went to a quality delivery group and also a risk management group as well. And it was just so impressive again to see what was going on in those meetings. I also shadowed the site team for a shift. Now, I found this really, really interesting. When I was a HCA, we used to do an awful lot of bed moves, and sometimes you'd be hiking loads of bays around, and it was just to take one patient. But nothing was ever really explained as to why we were doing it. I never really understood, but now I do. And for me, the hospital is like a massive Jenga puzzle that has to be sorted each and every day to make sure that we can ensure that our patient flow is maintained. So whenever there's a discharge, the site team know about this discharge and they're planning who's going where and moving people around. So it might be that people don't have the exact person they're looking after that's applicable to their speciality, but when a bed does come back up in the area, the site team know about it and they can move them up. I think the other thing that I really wanted to highlight to healthcare support workers, and this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this course, is because I really want to highlight the patient safety arena to healthcare support workers because they are vitally important. Patient safety is everybody's business. So making mistakes, it's making sure that people have the confidence to speak up about them, that they're working in a just culture with psychological safety, that they're not going to be shouted at or have the finger pointed at them. It's actually having that courage to think, well, actually, this wasn't right. This is how I contributed to that, but I've learned from my error and maybe we could do this instead. So it's actually looking at the controls and barriers and making positive change. So I do feel that by taking this course, it's elevated my teaching as I now include an awful lot more information, which I hope brings assurance and confidence to our healthcare support workers.
That sounds fantastic, and that you've been able to then bring it into the training that you offer new starters means that there's going to be cultural change spreading across the whole organisation. So if we're talking about things like just culture and psychological safety from people's first couple of days in the trust, then that's absolutely fantastic. So as well as doing this, I understand you've developed into a bit of a mentor. So what does that look like for you?
So I'm always willing to help anyone in any way that I can. I am an empath. I'm a very compassionate and caring person. And I think even back in the 2019 when I joined the trust, even though I probably didn't really realise it at a time, I really was mentoring and being a real mentor and coach to an awful lot of HCAs that joined our team. It's really gratifying for me to be able to help someone onto the right path and help them reach their goal or an outcome for whatever they desire. I've actually undertaken a mentorship course with our apprenticeship team that I did, but I think that mentorship does come naturally to me. I think also as well by mentoring and helping people to progress to somewhere that they really want to move on to, we're making the trust fit for the future and also thinking about succession planning as well. So for the past 2 years, I've mentored an exceptional HCA who expressed an interest in joining or working in education at some point. And at first she was very, very nervous about being in a training room and speaking. But now with going slowly and giving her the confidence and courage, she can actually now teach the second day of my induction or the induction that the trust runs. And I think that's an amazing achievement. As I say, it's important to succession plan so that our healthcare support workers can continue in whatever they wish to. And can I just say as well, Jo, I feel it's really important. I think you mentioned at the beginning that leadership is at all levels, and it's something that I really promote continually. For me, leadership is driven by your actions, attitude, behaviour, drive. empathy by example, I think integrity, but also having the respect of others. And I always try to empower healthcare support workers to speak up and get involved with initiatives, as they have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to patient care and ensuring that they receive the best experience possible. And I think by mentorship, I can actually really bring leadership in. You don't need to be a high level executive to lead.
I think that's so true. And when you've got your feet on the ground and you are there front door clinically working, you see what the problems are, and even sometimes just little ways to make things a bit better. It's really important that everyone feels that they're going to be listened to when they come up with a good idea, and then supported in how to make those changes positive and how to make them stick as well. I also think what you're talking about with the mentoring, it's a slow process, but people are going to stay with us for longer when they feel that they are learning and they are growing. And it's not just like telling them, oh, this job might come up, but actually enabling them to grow in their skills and their abilities over time. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. Have you come across any challenges in this job role?
So I've set up an awful lot of training courses along the way. It's been really important to me to make sure that we have a robust portfolio that we offer for our healthcare support workers. And the things that I've come up against, it's actually gaining release, it's time, gaining them time to actually attend. And I totally get that when we've got an awful lot of clinical pressures and patient care has to come first, and that is absolutely fine. But that's been one of the barriers, because you actually set up the course, people enroll, and then when they actually come to the training, sometimes you get quite a few people that don't attend. I totally get it when the hospital's in a business continuity incident, but sometimes it's just getting that actual release from the manager, but also as well, it's budget. So I'm very creative with what I've implemented, and draw on in-house resources wherever I can. I also think about what charities may be able to offer because of budget restrictions, and also as well, sometimes the RCN may have some funding that our healthcare support workers can tap into. So I'll actually look at that and promote that within the trust, and also any free courses as well that are run by Future Learn, for example. They do a couple of courses. I'd say those two things have been the biggest challenges that I've come across.
But it sounds like you've got your creativity there, haven't you? Looking at all sorts of different avenues outside the traditional trust is going to give you a pot of money to do this, exploring all these different places that you can get, well, that the courses are already running, or you can get little pots of funding from. Have you found that any individuals are resistant to change or resistant to these training programs, or have you found people to be quite supportive?
To be honest, my team have been phenomenal. My managers, when I first arrived, were very, very supportive, and my new line manager that's been in post for a few months now is exceptional, and they've just let me run with it. So I've come up with suggestions. They haven't said no to me once. They've just let me go with things. Which is great, because it obviously makes me feel that I'm actually coming up with things that are worthwhile. We're actually working in partnership with the Royal National Institute for the Blind later in the year, and they're coming in to give visual awareness training to our healthcare support workers, which I'm really excited about. It's something completely brand new, and I think that will be amazing, because if it comes off, then it might be that we can work with other charities. But I'm digressing a bit. In answer to your question, I think that the chief nurse is always very supportive of the work that I'm doing. The Fran Wilson, the lead nurse for recruitment and attraction and retention, she's been fantastic. Been mentored by Bev Jones, Susie Crowe, all senior people, and they've just really, really encouraged and supported, which I think when you've got such encouragement, it really enables you to really push yourself and try and do your best, because you know that you are in a supportive place.
That's absolutely fantastic to hear, that you've got support from your direct manager, but then support from a range of people across the organisation as well. And that the freedom a little bit to be able to come up with good ideas and to run with them, I think must be really empowering. And I will definitely be intrigued to see what things you do over the next few years as well. So what would you say to other HCAs who feel like they've got ideas to improve things? What advice would you give them?
To actually discuss it with your line manager first, to check that they're happy for you to carry out a project, because I would highly recommend carrying out a project, not only because it's a really good way of actually determining whether what you want to put in place is working because you've actually got data, but also because it's really good for your development. You'll learn so many skills by doing this. So I would start with the line manager to check that they're happy for you to do it. Get onto your bronze and silver training, because you'll need to do your bronze for your silver. That's where you'll learn everything that you need to do, and have the confidence, because it's like I said earlier, you're seeing things that a lot of people might not, and whether it's a small change, a large change, whatever it is, it's valid, and it's really valuable for our patients that you actually do this and work with what you really think might make a difference. And like I said earlier, if it doesn't, at least you've tried. You can't ask any more of yourself than that. And again, it's something that you can put on your CV for future job applications. And if you ever think about going on the student nursing associate apprenticeship, having these little extra bits on your CV will really make, or your application form will really make you stand out. It's a very, very good thing to do a project, I would say. It's certainly something that I've learned an awful lot from, because data analysis isn't always a natural fit for me, but actually I'm becoming a lot more confident because I had the tenacity to actually try and go with it.
Fantastic advice, and I'm sure people will take it to heart and take it on board. Is really, we have got patients at the heart of the care that we're providing, and if we can do things to make the care that they receive better, then that's really fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Becky. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I'm sure people will benefit from listening to it. Is there anything else you wanted to add or let us know at the end?
No, I'm all good. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.